I told them, and I wasn't kidding, that if you even eat rum cake and I find out about it, I'll put you in jail. Some of them, you know, eventually found out. Never had a rum cake, but, you know. So you hold people accountable for their actions. And if they have an alcohol problem, I can take them off alcohol, and then all kinds of good things start happening. I expanded that. We'd have people that were brought into the criminal courts for failing to pay court-ordered child support. I told the probation officers, if you ever hear that any of these people have alcohol problems, let me know. I'll put them on the program. And I would. They did, and I did. And now all of a sudden, once they've stopped drinking alcohol, they start making their child care payments like clockwork. It works. But the secret is, you don't have to have these drugs be illegal in order to hold people accountable for their actions. So even if we do have a government package store for what I would do, heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, where it would be under the control of the state. Why would a libertarian ever say that? For one very good reason. If it's run by Philip Morris or Budweiser beer or whatever, or Anheuser-Busch, they can advertise it. And I do not want people to advertise this stuff. And it's only if the state owns the product that they can choose not to advertise it, and that makes a huge difference to me. I do not want to glamorize it. Have it in a government package store, like, by the way, Georgia and Pennsylvania still have today with regard to hard liquor. That today, if you want to buy Jim Beam bourbon, you have to go to a government package store to do it. I think that's the way to go. No advertising. People by word of mouth, they want to know where to go to get. They'll know where to go. But you don't cater to those problems. You don't have brand names. You don't have any advertising. You just do it as boringly as you can. Sir?
Yeah, you mentioned about that initiative that's going to be on the ballot in November.
Yes.
In your opinion, how realistic do you think it is that it's going to pass?
I think that I, for the last 17 and a half years, have been running into walls by discussing this issue, running into the wind, all that sort of stuff. For the last 6 months, the wind's been in our back. I'm on a lot of radio talk shows. I can't remember a host on a radio talk show in the last 5 years that hasn't agreed with me completely. You know, Bill Handel, I mean, John and Ken, all these people. They believe, and when you get callers in, they don't take me to task. They refine, they'll have a few questions. I sense a real watershed. The last poll, the last field poll, this was 6 months ago, showed about 56% of the potential voters in California favored the legalization of marijuana. This isn't the legalization, by the way, but that's the term they used. So I think we have a decent shot. The problem is, and I don't say this publicly, because it sounds like I'm demeaning the loyal opposition, but you haven't seen nothing yet. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll come back to the final part of your question. When we repealed alcohol prohibition, there were several states and then eventually several counties that stayed dry. And one of them, and I'm unclear, either was in Nevada or was in Arkansas, depending on who you're talking to, but one of the counties, the kind of the heads of the government, got together and said, well, tell you what, Harry, maybe it's time for us to sell alcohol within our county. That we'll go wet. What do you think? And pretty much they all agreed. So let's have a poll. So they conducted a poll, and sure enough, 70 to 75% of the people polled said, you know, I think it's time. So they put it on the ballot. They put a county-wide initiative on the ballot. Resolved, we're going to become a wet county. So as the election approached, they take a few more polls, and they saw, yeah, 70 to 75% of the people are still with us. And then, 4 to 6 weeks before the election, they got hit with a Madison Avenue type slick advertising blitz that you wouldn't believe. And all of these reasons, fanciful or otherwise, why it's inappropriate for our children, whatever, to go to become a wet county. And they saw their lead evaporating until the election came and the initiative failed by 2 or 3% of the vote. So the next day, all these people kind of got up off the ground, dusted themselves off, and said, what happened? Where did this money come from? Must have been the churches. They checked with the churches. Nope, that wasn't it. You know where the money came from? The people on the county line that were selling the alcohol into this county. They saw that they were in a position to lose their money. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it, from a marketing economic standpoint? Why am I saying that here? The drug cartels in Mexico, according to the head of the DEA, get about 60% of their gross revenue from the sale of marijuana. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars a year by selling marijuana, illegal marijuana, in the state of California. And I'm fully convinced that they're going to spend 10 or 15 of it or 20 of it in an effort to protect their source of money. Aren't they? So we need to be prepared for that. Plus, of course, the prison guards union and the chiefs of police and all the rest of that, they will throw money into this as well. But that's, I don't say it on the radio or whatever because it sounds like I'm demeaning the chiefs of police of the prison guards union for, you know, in effect being in cahoots with the Mexican drug cartels. They have the same interest, but they're certainly not in bed with them. But those are things that we're going to have to look at. It takes us. But you go back and look at Prop 215, medical marijuana, all the federal government and all the local officials and everybody else, no, don't do this. It's still passed by 56% of the vote. I think the same thing's going to happen here. The more we talk about it, the more people will go along with it. Yes?
Keeping in line with libertarian analysis of cost-benefit analysis and personal responsibility, would you think it would be more appropriate to someday to get to the point of 18 being the legal age for marijuana usage? I mean, because it seems as though that 3-year gap of adulthood could be
sure.
used to.
The answer is, I don't know. The question is, you know, what about 18 instead of 21? My response, my remedy, you look at the last chapter of my book, my remedy to this entire issue is the concept of federalism. Ooh, that sounds egghead intellectual talk. It's not. Concept of federalism means that allow the most local government that's able to address certain problems to do so. So instead of the federal government, who clearly does not have all the answers, allow each state to decide how best to serve its people with regard to this whole issue of the availability of drugs. We have, in effect, 50 crucibles of democracy, 50 different states. So Illinois will come up with something, works pretty well. Neighboring Indiana will come up with something, sounds good, just doesn't work quite so well. What's going to happen pretty soon? Well, Illinois will look around and say, you know, Charlie, I think this is working pretty well. We might tinker with it a little bit, but by and large, let's leave it alone. Indiana will say, that was a good idea, but it isn't working. I wonder what would be, oh wait, what's Illinois doing? Maybe we should try that. So we'd have all of these various trial and error attempts. Some states may decide 18 is the way to go. Personally, I wouldn't, for one reason. Montana tried to reduce the age of alcohol usage from 21 to 18. 15 years ago, something like that, and they did so. And the result was that the deaths on the highway from alcohol-related offenses, particularly for 18-year-olds, spiked. So they turned it around and they again had alcohol be under 21, and the related deaths went down. That really bothers me. But I don't know, maybe Iowa would do that, maybe Illinois wouldn't, I don't know. But who cares what I think anyway? Let's let each state decide how best to protect its people. Yes?
You mentioned the revenue you get from decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana. Do you see a lot of...
No! Don't say that. It's not decriminalizing or legalizing. It's different, right? Don't bring those together. I'm going to stop you for 1 second. Think about a legalized drug. Think aspirin. Okay? Aspirin is a legalized drug. You or your 12-year-old sister can go to Rite Aid and you can buy generic, you can buy brand names, you can buy a case of it if you want to. The price is controlled by the free market. Advertising galore. Nobody I know wants to legalize cocaine under that definition. But what we have for alcohol and for cigarettes is the strictly regulated control. And in this, we are not legalizing marijuana under this initiative. It is the strictly regulated control. Not decriminalization either. Strictly regulated control. You folks are in the law profession. Have to start using terms effectively. No, I got to come back to him. Yes, sorry. No, I'm not, but anyway, go ahead. Yes, oh, good thought. Yes, that's right.
Do you see a lot of tourism resulting from that? Like, you know, a lot of people in Amsterdam, obviously.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
A lot of revenue from that as well?
Get real, Gray, is what he's saying. Come on. If we were to take the city of, where are we, Costa Mesa? Where Costa Mesa? If we were to treat marijuana like alcohol in Costa Mesa, you'd have a lot of people coming into, you'd make a Haight-Ashbury overnight, hey man, you know, that sort of stuff. It might be a good thing. Think of the revenue that the city of Costa Mesa would